We all want to be better producers, and there is no substitute for practice. More time in the studio, more time in your DAW, more time producing songs is obviously the number one way to improve. But there are some small habits that you can introduce to your week so that you can get better in your off time when you're just watching TV, listening to music, listening to podcasts, or just sitting around the house. Now, number 5 has been a game changer for me when it comes to writing more songs, but all of them have helped me level up as a producer, so let's go ahead and get into it. When I was in my first band ever, I sang a majority of the background vocals, and so I needed to develop an ear for harmony pretty quickly. And one way that I was able to get really good at singing harmonies and coming up with harmonies quickly is to sing harmonies to songs that already exist while I was driving around in the car. So basically, I would just put on an album that I was really familiar with, and I would sing along in different intervals of harmony. This was something that I started doing because I thought it was fun, but after a while, I started getting really good at it. Writing and singing harmonies can be tricky for a lot of singers, so as a producer, I think it's super helpful to be able to write and sing harmonies, and doing this was a way that I was able to get really good at it really fast. So if you struggle with writing and singing harmonies, or you just want to get better at it whenever you're in the car, sing along and sing in harmony. I actually have a video that I'm writing the script for right now about writing harmonies by ear. So if that sounds like something you're into, then make sure to subscribe. But in the meantime, whenever you're driving, just sing along, start singing harmonies, and start practicing writing harmonies on the fly. Now, next up is some classic advice that you will totally be doing if you take a music production degree, but even if you don't, I think it can be super helpful, and that is listening critically. If you don't know what critical listening is, it is not listening to score an album like you're a music critic, but instead it's listening to see what happens where, what types of sound are being used, if things are being tripled, doubled, if they're wet or dry. Basically using your ears and your brain to analyze the music that's been recorded by other people. You're basically trying to figure out what makes a song good or great or at least an interesting production. There are a few things that I personally listen for when I'm analyzing a song. The first is that I always try to figure out what chords they're using. Being able to figure out chord progressions just by listening to a song is super helpful for producers because you can just hop right in, start producing someone else's song without having to ask what the chords are. It's also a fun party trick, so there is that. Being able to hear a song once or twice and play it back on your preferred instrument can really come in handy, so I think that's super useful. The second thing I listen for is any production technique that I might have never noticed before that I could throw into my bag of tricks. For example, I once noticed that a song I was listening to had a layer of lead vocals, but they also had the singer whispering the lyrics underneath it. This gave the song a really intimate, kind of spooky feel, and I was able to put that in my bag of tricks and actually use it on a song that I was recording for a client a couple months later. Lastly, I listen for quirks in the arrangement of a song. So for example, if a song only has a pre-chorus on the first chorus and that makes the second chorus really come in more impactfully because you don't have to wait for it, throw that in the bag of tricks. If the first chorus is half the length of the second chorus, so the second time around the chorus really has a new meaning, throw that in the bag of tricks. Finding neat ideas to kind of borrow and pick and choose from other songs is a super good way to make your productions more interesting without having to copy the notes or the chord progressions or the lyrics of someone else's song. And of course, as producers, it is important to be able to listen critically, but it's also important to be able to listen uncritically. I've talked to so many producers who have told me that they pretty much only listen to podcasts now when they're driving because they're sick of listening to music. In fact, I've had phases of that myself. But I've recently made it a point to listen to more music just for the fun of it and to find stuff that I connect with emotionally, not because of the production value or because of neat songwriting, but just because I simply like it. Being able to get into the headspace of a listener who just likes a song for what it is can be super important, because it is important to understand what makes a song good besides the production, the ear candy, the high budget mix, the clever middle eight, all that stuff. If you're able to get excited about listening to some great music, it is probably going to reflect in the music that you're making when you sit down and start working. So yes, we're listening to music critically and we're listening to it for fun, but there's also lots of passive entertainment that you're going to take in every single week. And I've made a point to replace a lot of that passive entertainment with stuff that's at least tangentially related to producing. So if you're gonna sit down and watch a YouTube video, picking something like this, or a reaction video of a song you like, or a production breakdown of an album that you think is good, that can be a great way to learn something while you're being entertained in your free time. Putting on a podcast like And the Writer Is or Song Exploder is a great way to pick up lots of little tidbits of musical knowledge. And instead of sitting down, pulling out a textbook and reading about music theory, you'll end up actually picking up a lot of little tidbits of it just from things that you actually find entertaining. And the last and most important habit that I've started introducing into my week is just hiding instruments around my house. In The Atomic Habit, which is a great book by James Clear, he talks about finding the 2-minute version of habits. Basically, if you just allow yourself to do the bare minimum version of a habit, like putting on your running shoes, that momentum will carry itself into actually going on a run. But if you keep your shoes hidden in a storage closet somewhere and you have to dig through it every time you want to go on a run, you're just not going to do it. And after listening to that book, I started keeping one guitar on my couch, another in my bedroom up against my bed, and a third one sitting against my studio desk. I can't tell you the amount of times I've picked up one of those guitars, started playing, and actually figured out a really cool riff that turned into a song. You can find your own version of this. I'm not suggesting that everyone who watches this video hide 3 guitars throughout their house, but find a version of this like putting GarageBand or BandLab on your phone so that if you have a spare 10 minutes, you can start making some beats. Or keeping a notebook on you so it's easier to just start writing lyrics. Whatever it is, find your 2-minute habit that you can use so that you can just jumpstart into working on music. These easy habits will help you level up as a producer without taking a ton of active time. So give them a try. Let me know in the comments if there's any habits you have that I forgot, and then check out this video here where I talk about my productivity and organization system for producers.